Emily, is Grandpa behaving himself? Oh yes, well sort of. He injured his leg. Old people can be such a nuisance sometimes. I wish they'd think about those of us who have to take care of them. Patricia, that's not a nice thing to say. It's fine, he's already declining quite a bit. I can't handle the fuss of old people, but you're used to it, so you'll be fine. The other day, my husband's grandfather, Michael, fell in the garden and injured his leg. It's not a serious injury, but he's already 82 years old. Because of his age, we've had him rest in bed just to be safe so it doesn't get worse. My mother-in-law won't even go near him, let alone take care of him. I'm Emily, 30 years old. I got married 3 years ago and live with my husband Daniel's family. My husband was my boss at the company where I worked, a company founded by his grandfather. When I joined 8 years ago, my father-in-law was already the president and my grandfather-in-law was the chairman. But back then, the grandfather was still handling all the important tasks and responsibilities of the company. 2 years ago, when Grandpa turned 80, he remained chairman but handed over most of the public duties to my father-in-law. Michael, you've worked hard all this time. Now leave the company matters to Christopher and take it easy, my mother-in-law said with a smile. But her words sounded sarcastic to me. Grandfather-in-law is a bit stubborn, but a fair and kind person with a good reputation. In contrast, my father-in-law seemed somewhat immature, never expressing his opinions clearly and utterly unreliable compared to Grandpa. And he always does whatever my mother-in-law says. My grandmother-in-law has already passed away, and I never met her. My husband and I started dating when we worked together on the same product planning team, 3 years after I joined the company. My husband, who was energetically leading the team, seemed reliable to me, though a bit self-righteous. Maybe I felt that way because I lost my father early and grew up with just my mother. My mother also passed away from illness 2 years ago, and now I have no family other than my in-laws. Shortly after I got married, my mother fell ill and needed care, so I quit my job to take care of her. The fact that my husband's family didn't object was probably due to a single comment from Grandpa. It's only natural to take care of the mother who raised you alone. Don't worry and take good care of her. Thanks to that, I was able to be by my mother's side every day for a year, without financial worries, until she passed away. My mother-in-law seemed a bit dissatisfied, but I was truly grateful. However, since Grandpa handed over the company to my father-in-law, everyone's attitudes towards him have gradually changed. They no longer listen to his opinions as much, and I can't shake the feeling that they're treating him carelessly. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but watching my mother-in-law and husband's behavior, I can't help but feel that way. My father-in-law's attitude is non-committal, but it feels like he's ignoring Grandpa, as if he's no longer needed since he's practically retired. Watching my in-laws' behavior makes me feel somewhat angry. Hey, don't you think your attitude, Patricia, and yours too, is a bit cold towards Grandpa? So what's the big deal? Grandpa tries to talk to you, and you barely respond. You don't even try to help him. Like I have time to deal with old people. You can take care of Grandpa. You're the one with the free time. You don't have to talk like that. Quiet, I'm tired from work. Don't nag me about unnecessary things. This is how it goes. No matter what I say, they won't listen to me. My grandfather-in-law doesn't say anything to his family about this. Now I'm the only one who talks to my grandfather-in-law at home. Grandpa, the weather is nice today. Shall we go for a little walk outside? Your leg seems to be healing well, and I think it will be good rehabilitation. Thank you. Let's go out for a bit then. The two of us went to the park. There were several families with children playing around. My grandfather-in-law looked at the scene with joy. Christopher and Daniel were like that too at times, he said. Grandpa, I was busy with work and couldn't take care of the children much. Maybe that's why I couldn't raise Christopher and Daniel properly, he said, with a slightly sad face, almost like he was talking to himself. Christopher is my father-in-law, and Daniel is my husband. I think about how everyone could be kinder to my grandfather-in-law, but I can't come up with a good idea. But then my in-laws suggested building a house for my grandfather-in-law. This house is over 50 years old, right? The layout is bad. It's hard to use. But instead of spending money on repairs, it would be better to build a new house in a more convenient location. A new house. Michael is getting older, and it's good that he only got injured last time, but we never know what will happen. So let's make the house barrier-free so we won't have trouble if care is needed. I see. We can even put Michael's room in the middle, so everyone can take care of him easily. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Right, so it's settled then. And Michael, about the cost. If it's a house for all of us, I'll take care of it. Talk to Mr. Jones about the money. Typical Michael. Thank you, we appreciate it. My mother-in-law smiled happily. It seems to me that they only flatter him when they want money. But if everyone takes care of my grandfather-in-law after moving to the new house, I thought there could be nothing better. Mr. Jones is the company's in-house counsel and also manages my grandfather-in-law's personal assets. My grandfather-in-law liked his character and made him in-house counsel, and it's been nearly 30 years. He is 58 now and the person my grandfather-in-law trusts the most. I've met him several times and he seems to be a very honest person. He always cares about my grandfather-in-law's health, and sometimes I think he's more like a son than his real sons. Having such people around my grandfather-in-law makes me feel a little relieved. However, I wasn't informed about where or what kind of house was being built, but my mother-in-law seemed very cheerful. The three of them were looking at interior design magazines and discussing various ideas, so it appeared everything was going smoothly. Then something unexpected happened. It was revealed that my grandfather-in-law had a debt of $1.82 million. Wait, what's this about $1.82 million? My grandfather-in-law had become a co-signer for a loan taken out by a friend's company. Unfortunately, the company fell into financial trouble, and the debt became my grandfather-in-law's responsibility. Wait, they're not going to take the house that's under construction, are they? Since the contract has already been completed, and as Patricia said, it's in the president's name, so it's fine, my mother-in-law replied, clearly relieved. Oh, thank goodness. I'm glad we did it my way. Listening to that conversation, I learned for the first time that the new house was in my father-in-law's name, even though my grandfather-in-law had paid for it. Putting it in my father-in-law's name was just like something my mother-in-law would do. I also couldn't understand why they didn't consider selling the house to help repay the debt. Hey, this debt is Michael's fault, and it has nothing to do with us or the company, right? Well, it was signed in Michael's name. Oh, good, then there's no problem. I couldn't comprehend what was good about it, but since my grandfather-in-law remained silent during the conversation, I didn't intervene either. After all, it's not an amount I could handle. But a few days later, my grandfather-in-law's behavior began to change gradually. Grandpa, what would you like to eat for lunch? Who are you calling Grandpa? I'm only 50. You have no right to call me that. Huh? Sorry, Emily, right? I was lost in thought. At first, I thought you was just deep in thought, but when it happened repeatedly, I began to feel uneasy. Patricia, what are you doing? Where's my meal? Grandpa, I'm Emily. Patricia is your daughter-in-law. You already ate your meal earlier. I didn't eat. Are you trying to starve me? I wondered if my grandfather-in-law's condition was triggered by the $1.82 million debt, and if seeing that none of his family members were trying to help him might have been a double shock. What could I do for him? I tried to take my grandfather-in-law to the hospital, but he refused to go. He might not want to admit that he might have dementia. I didn't want to force him, but I felt helpless on my own. I consulted my husband, but he only replied that it had nothing to do with him. I couldn't rely on my mother-in-law either, so I thought my father-in-law was the only option. Yeah, I heard from Patricia and Daniel. They think it might be dementia. Can you go to the hospital with us? But it's not that bad yet, right? If we go to the hospital, others will find out my father has dementia. There are good medications now that can slow the progression. Well, there's no need to rush. Let's watch him a little longer. Emily is here, so it'll be fine, right? I couldn't help but think how unreliable these people were. I realized I couldn't depend on them. Grandpa, let's go to the hospital. Let's get you properly examined. Who are you? Where are you planning to take me? You're up to no good. I almost cried, thinking about how my once kind grandfather-in-law had become so stubborn. But my mother-in-law just laughed, amused. Even if he was the chairman, it's over for him now. But now, everything, even the company, is all Christopher's. Patricia, Grandpa isn't completely unaware. He's listening to everything. He'll forget everything soon. He'll start wandering and dribbling. Just thinking about it gives me chills. He's nothing but a nuisance now. How can you say that? Grandpa has worked hard for the family all his life. My mother-in-law's words made me angry and sad, but my grandfather-in-law just smiled. See, this old man doesn't understand anything, Patricia. I was furious at my mother-in-law's laughing words. But soon the new house would be ready. Maybe things would change once we moved there. Since it was a house that Grandpa built, the family might show some gratitude and be kind to him. I couldn't completely abandon that faint hope. 2 months later, the house was finally built. For days, I had been forced to pack my in-laws' and husband's belongings, while my father-in-law's and my things were mostly untouched. Even when I tried to pack my things, my in-laws and husband kept giving me tasks, so I couldn't make any progress. But I thought it would be fine to move the small things later since this house wasn't going anywhere. On moving day, after most of the things were moved, I went to call my father-in-law, but my husband said, you and Grandpa can stay here. What? You can stay in this house. We don't need any extra baggage in the new house. In other words, you and Grandpa will live here from now on, and I'll give you Grandpa's debt too. Well, you can at least be a housekeeper. Hey, let's go. Yeah, I'm coming. Good luck with all the debt repayment and live-in care. With those words, my in-laws cheerfully got into the car and left. I was stunned for a while. I couldn't immediately understand what had just happened. Were we just abandoned? And not just me, but my grandfather-in-law too, only they would live in the new house. It took me a while to understand because it was beyond my imagination that someone could do something so cruel. How should I explain this to my grandfather-in-law? I slowly returned to the back room. I didn't mind taking care of my grandfather-in-law at all. That was my intention from the start. As I was about to timidly call out to him, who was sitting with his back to me, he seemed to sense my presence and turned around before I could speak. Have they gone already? My grandfather-in-law's expression as he said that looked completely different from how he had been just months ago. To be frank, he seemed like a different person. I thought maybe a different symptom had emerged, but the next moment my grandfather-in-law smiled. And then his following words surprised me. As I was talking to my grandfather-in-law, Mr. Jones came in. Chairman, have you finished getting rid of the unnecessary staff? Yes, it's all done. Let's go, shall we? Where are we going? Of course, to the new house. I left the house where I had been living, led by my grandfather-in-law, without understanding what was happening. The next month, countless calls came from my mother-in-law and husband. My grandfather-in-law said he wouldn't deal with them anymore, but I answered my husband's call because of the divorce. Hey Emily, is Grandpa with you? When I went to the old house, it was for sale. It's not worth $1.82 million, so you can't repay the debt. Is that why you did that? What do you mean? Put Grandpa on. Dad said he can't get in touch at all. That forgetful old man has done something outrageous. I knew what he was talking about, but I wanted to hear what my husband would say. Grandpa sold the company's stocks to the executive director. Thanks to that, the executive director became the largest shareholder. A shareholders' meeting and board meeting were held, and Dad was dismissed as president. The executive director was well-liked, and perhaps Grandpa believed he was better suited to lead the company. When I heard that Grandpa had sold the company's stocks to the executive director, my husband was outraged. The executive director must have deceived the senile old man into selling the stocks. This is invalid, he exclaimed. You seem to be misunderstanding something, I replied calmly. Grandpa doesn't have dementia. If anything, he's more coherent now than he's been in years. What? My husband was in disbelief. Until that moving day, I had also believed my grandfather-in-law was suffering from dementia. But it turned out that Grandpa had been suspicious ever since my mother-in-law mentioned building a new house to live with him. So he devised a plan. He pretended to have dementia to observe how my in-laws and husband would react. As expected, they revealed their true colors one by one. In the end, they left my grandfather-in-law and me behind. I struggled to hold back my laughter because everything went exactly as I expected. Grandpa said with a grin. I was surprised, relieved, and a little conflicted. To deceive the enemy, you must first deceive your allies, Grandpa said with a laugh. He had been receiving regular updates on the company's operations from the executive director and Mr. Jones. With Grandpa stepping back, my father-in-law and husband had taken control. Acting self-righteously and ignoring the employees' opinions, hosting lavish parties at the company's expense. Grandpa had handed over the company to my father-in-law, but grew increasingly concerned about its future. In the end, he decided he couldn't trust his son with the company and transferred it to the executive director instead. What about the $1.82 million debt? I asked, concerned. That's gone now, Grandpa replied. I did co-sign a loan for a friend's son, but I also own personal assets that far exceed that amount. After stepping back from the company's operations, I invested in real estate and made a considerable profit. But if I had told them that, it would have been clear my mother-in-law and husband would target it. That's why I only talked about the debt. The friend in question was the son of a benefactor who had helped my father-in-law when he was young. Moreover, the countryside land owned by the friend's son was being developed into a resort, and he had sold it at a high price, so there was no longer a need to take on the debt. You're kidding, my husband stammered. But more importantly, are you guys okay? We're not okay. Both my father and I were denounced by the company. What should we do now? Well, there's also the mortgage on the house, I said. What? What do you mean the mortgage on the house? My husband's voice trembled. Haven't you realized it yet? The house money should have been all paid by Grandpa. Maybe you don't remember what Grandpa said at that time. When my mother-in-law talked to him about the money, he set a condition. If it's a house where everyone, including me, will live, he would pay. Otherwise, he wouldn't. Even though the house was in my father-in-law's name, Grandpa had intended to pay if everyone was living together. But because they assumed Grandpa would pay and didn't check the documents properly, my husband signed without verifying everything. It just showed he really didn't have the qualities of a president. You're kidding. My husband's voice trailed off. Afterward, my parents-in-law lost the house they had built because they couldn't pay the mortgage. Now they live in an old apartment over 50 years old, struggling to pay off the unpaid loan. My mother-in-law and husband have been contacting me alternately, suggesting we all live together, but that's impossible now. My grandfather-in-law has retired from his chairman position, and now he has bought an old house in the countryside where we live together. Emily, you can go and live wherever you like freely. You don't have to worry about living expenses, my grandfather-in-law told me. But I chose to stay with him. If I'm not in the way, please let me be with you. When I said that, my grandfather-in-law's eyes welled up with tears. Thanks to Mr. Jones, the divorce was finalized and legal procedures were taken to exclude my former father-in-law and former husband from inheritance. I became my grandfather-in-law's adopted daughter. If anything happens to my grandfather-in-law, who is now my father, I intend to take care of him until the end. Now, the two of us enjoy working in the fields together. Dad, look at this radish. It's huge. In the warm sunlight, we share these peaceful moments. I wish for these days to continue, even just one day longer.